Let's get into a very big conversation here in the studios regarding the tax amnesty. The Nigerian government has rolled out a very historic amnesty for tax defaulters, says it's a voluntary assets and income declaration scheme, or VAIDS. That's what the acronym really is. The Buhari's administration is looking to rake in $1 billion from multinationals, basically, and high net worth individuals. It's all over social media since last week, so that's no longer news. But let's put some technical analysis into this with the folks who understand the business of tax. From Deloitte, we have Yomi Olugbenro, who is a partner at Deloitte Nigeria and is the head of the West Africa tax business for Deloitte. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Boason, for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It's good. Great to have you here. $1 billion looks like a lot of money, but by Nigeria's GDP and the size of the economy is a drop in the ocean. But it's a good way to start.
Absolutely. So it's a good way to start. We're practically in a crisis situation in the country, as you will know. We are in a revenue challenge, very big one at that. I think it's gotten to a point where everybody is beginning to realize that our problem isn't just corruption, isn't just the leadership. We also have significant gap in our revenue. And because of that, government had to practically take measures that is similar to what you say, an emergency measure. It's like the government revenue is in a period of crisis.
But it's a doctrine of necessity.
Absolutely so. Absolutely so.
We rolled out the economic recovery growth plan. The IMF says, well done, folks. However, there's a problem with your revenue. Economists, folks locally are saying there's a problem with our revenue base. Oil is tanking. The Niger Delta folks are quiet. We are supply going up. And OPEC is looking at us and everybody's pointing at us as one of the problem boys in the room with Libya because we're dragging volume down alongside the US. So we need to do something with our revenue, and tax is one. Look at what is happening in South Africa and India and elsewhere. Countries around the world are tightening the knot on tax on the people. Do you think this VAIDS is resonating with the common man that looks, we need to squeeze the multinationals, we need to squeeze very rich Nigerians like you to get more tax out?
All right, so Boason, let's put some context into this. I understand the clamor and sometimes the feedback from the market in terms of the business as to how tightening some of those measures will be. But just let's look at some of the statistics and look at how we are in terms of compliance. When the VAIDS was being launched, and prior to that, we've had the finance minister and the folks at the FIRS tell us that out of the entire, maybe 180 million or how many we are, only about 214 people pay taxes in excess of 20 million naira. When that was lowered a little, and we were trying to look for how many people pay up to 10 million naira, we got just about 914 people. Out of the 914, 912 sit in Lagos. Only 2, I think it's in Ogun State. Tax to GDP ratio in Nigeria is 6%. The average for most of OECD countries is around 30%. In fact, a number of African countries are doing well over 20%. Ghana, our next door neighbor, is doing over 15%. That's where we are. So when government is looking at the gap in amount of the compliance, you will understand exactly why this is appropriate and this step is in the right direction. I know obviously there are a number of those who are already been taxed to the teeth, if they want to say that, but that's just a fraction of the population.
A fraction of what the government should be able to squeeze out, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So let's look at the principles and the highlights of the new voluntary tax regime, which is a voluntary assets on one side.
Yep.
Assets.
Absolutely.
Jewelries, wristwatches, gold,
properties,
property.
everywhere, all around the world, yeah?
Yes, and income declaration.
Absolutely.
This is a twin
pillar, if you like to call it. So,
yes.
Boason, this is what happened. There is a sharp disconnect between our lifestyle and our tax statistics. They don't just speak to each other. You can have that kind of statistics I had mentioned earlier and not realize that there's a massive gap and there's a lot of non-compliance in the system. So there are a lot of folks who've got properties in millions of pounds and millions of dollars all spread all around the world, folks flying first-class private jets, to just go and see their kids in school, and we can translate that to the amount of tax that are being paid. That's the crisis situation that we're in, and government just had to do something because, like I mentioned earlier, there is a sharp revenue challenge in the country. The infrastructure development, some statistics says we need close to 31 trillion to be spent annually for infrastructure development. The entire budget, federal, state, and perhaps all of the local government added together for 2017, I doubt if we will be able to get up to 17 trillion. That's below 55 billion US dollar, 17 trillion naira. South Africa, with whom we are struggling, the #1 spot in African economy, has 1.56 trillion rand in budget for 2017. That's 120 billion US dollar, Boason. That's more than double what the entire federation is spending.
And they're looking at about north of $25 billion South Africa as tax revenue. That's a lot of money. $28 billion, that's a lot more than our entire budget for 2017.
Absolutely.
Hold on a second. Let's come back to you after the break. We have a lot more to discuss about the tax amnesty of the Buhari's administration. The guidelines are out. It's been explained by the finance ministry, and she looks very determined to bring in all the money. Stick around. We're back in 2.